Good afternoon. Welcome. Wow, let me just say this. Never expected over 100 people in this room. Rick, next year, let's make it a little bit bigger. So, good morning. My name is Rob Napolitano. I am the Chief Information Officer of the Brooksville Company. You might have heard of us recently. We just bought the largest federally subsidized property in the U.S. called Spring Creek Towers, 5,881 units of affordable across 47 buildings, across 150 acres in East New York, Brooklyn. Now, the reason why you would have heard of us is because the current president inherited 4%. So as of now, that's our claim to fame. We also have a joint venture with Pinnacle City Living, called Pinnacle City Living, with Pinnacle managing high-end luxury in New York. And I have the distinct privilege and honor to be the inaugural chairman of RETA. Now let's talk about what we hope to accomplish today. This is the exact opposite of what we want to achieve. There's no name calling, there's no bashing, we're not here to complain. It's a safe space that's built on 3 principles: communication, innovation, and collaboration. So today, we're going to talk about why we got here, or how we got here, rather. What the structure is of what we see this alliance, what the use case is, how to enroll, what membership means, and next steps. I intentionally created this slide deck to allow open forum and questions. So I don't envision this presentation going the next hour. In fact, it'll probably be 20 minutes. Hopefully it's entertaining enough to keep you in the room. If not, please feel free to exit. In 2002, we had about 40 practitioners and vendors come together to create the multifamily information and transaction standards. This was a single set of data standards, and it was a division officially of the NMHC. In fact, all intellectual property was owned by the NMHC. Unfortunately, with all the effort that was done, it wasn't adopted. And not because of lack of hard work, not because of dedication. If you look at the time when it really was available, we had the Great Recession. And so as companies in our space, we looked forward to find ways out of that Great Recession. But that didn't mean integration. Our vendors then adopted, came up, API became available, and this transaction, nobody used. What's interesting is a year ago, I was talking to Rick Hoey from the NMHC, and I said, Rick, what are you doing with MITS? You're claiming MITS 2.0. And he said, yeah, you know what, Rob? I think we're going to rebrand it MITS 2.0. And my response was, no, like catching my daughter falling off a chair. I said, look, Rick, if you really believe in this, we need to rebrand it, rechange it, and make it more fluid. In fact, understanding this, and over the last year, we now have a buzzword. In fact, the New York Times came out at the end of September with an article that stated that investment for startups in the tech space ending 2017 was up $3.4 billion. That's a factor of 5 over 4 years. Wow. We understand the investment that's being made into our industry. In fact, I've often said that we are so far behind everybody else. We're behind finance, we're behind healthcare, we're behind legal. Now this is the reality that we live in. So how can we take this moment in time and move forward together? So the interesting thing about MITS was it was specifically for multifamily. We wanted to create a structure that's all-encompassing. Because our vendors don't just focus on multifamily. They focus on affordable, military housing, construction, development, commercial. So we envisioned that we would have committees based on these verticals. And kind of like the framework of MITS and the way the MITS subcommittees work, we'll have work groups, subcommittees. Anybody can join. Vendor, practitioner can join the subcommittees. And then we will have a governance council. The governance council will be represented each of these verticals by an individual that is primary to those verticals. And they will together define the roadmap for the next 3 years. It is open to all, okay? We call it 2-1-1. 2 sides, vendor practitioner, 1 company, 1 vote. Size does not matter, okay? If you were 380,000 units, you have 1 vote. If you are 2,000 units, you have 1 vote. If you are the property management partner that's publicly traded, 1 vote. If you're new to the space, 1 vote. We also wanted to make this cost effective. If you look on the sheets of paper, you could see the pricing. This is not a cash cow. And this is intentional. Because if you look at the NMHC top 50, okay, which is usually 25,000 units and above, okay, that's 20% of our industry. 80% is 25,000 units and below. We want their participation. We want that collaboration. We want to hear their voice. So we intentionally made it cost effective so smaller companies can join. It also has to be fluid. It can't be rigid and static, and this is the set of guidelines that it's going to be. It has to grow as our industry grows. And our use cases, which I'll explain in a little bit, will define that. But we didn't want to be static. As we continually improve as an industry, so shall this forum. And finally, it's self-funded and self-governed. It is not part of the NMHC. While they have allowed us the space to communicate this message, it is solely up to this organization and its membership to survive. So let's talk about the use cases. First and foremost, we want to capitalize on the work that's already done and create a set of non-binding standards. Keyword, kind of like ISO, our vendors do not have to comply with these standards. But if they do, okay, seeing an opportunity, okay, and a competitive opportunity, then we as practitioners, okay, know that our point of implementation and our cost of implementation is lower. That is a win-win for everybody. We also want to build consensus. We have new technologies in our space. Just today, you know, we're talking about blockchain, VR, AI. What does that mean? Well, why not have a body that can help define where the application of these new technologies sit, as well as collaborate on top of it? Data dictionaries. Vacancy. What's vacancy? Is it the time they move out, time to notice, the time it's ready? Every company has its own definition. What's traffic? I've been at companies, traffic's a phone call, okay? Some companies, it's a tour, because there's an opportunity for sale. But there's no set definition. And I had this conversation with somebody today, and they said, well, look, my definition, I don't care about your definition. But at least we have a definition. You don't have to adapt to it, but this is what the standard is, so we can all communicate. One of the biggest challenges we have is data and mining that data. And even in one owned company, someone may have a different definition. This forum is to help that problem. So we can be sure we're all speaking at least the same baseline language. Startups. You guys are going to the conference hall after this. You'll see more companies today than you did just 4 short years ago, right? They don't have a forum to come and help them, guide them, you know, assist them to assist us. We see that. And finally, as I started this with, a forum to collaborate, engage, and define what PropTech means in our space. So membership starts today, okay? All membership applicants are pre-qualified. Ever see Alex Trebek do the Colonial Penn insurance? You cannot be turned down. Same rules apply. You can't be turned down, okay? Unfortunately, membership dues do not make it applicable to any other trade association. We are supported so far by the NMHC, the NAA, and HTNG. But membership in RETA doesn't allow us membership in those organizations, and it can't be transferred. And survival of this revolves around new and returning members. How do you enroll? This couldn't be any simpler. All you have to do is go to RETA.ll.org, click on the Join RETA, and there's a form. Click on the button, that's it, you're in. Boom, done. How awesome is that? That's simple. Our goal is to make it simple to collaborate, not to make it difficult, not to make people go through hoops, not to make people feel that they must meet some sort of criteria. These are the current members. 45 days ago, the NMHC distributed a letter to 9,000 of its members, authored by me, describing RETA and what our intent was. These are the people these are the companies in 45 short days that showed up. These are the ones that have interest and expressed interest. So the question is not why should I join? The question is why shouldn't I join? Because this is moving, and it's moving forward. And do you want to be a part of it, or do you not? I think one voice, one vote, that's worth it. So let me talk about next steps. By January, we're going to have officially the governance committee in place. And then in February, we're going to create those committees officially. And we'll establish what that 3-year roadmap is. I believe in full transparency. And it's not once a year, it's periodically throughout the year. So in 6 months, June, we're going to have a general call for all members. And it's either going to be at an industry event, or it's going to be a general call. So everybody hears what the progress is. And we're going to capitalize on that progress and that notification in the fall. So you're not coming here in November to learn what we did in the last 6 months. You're coming here to see the action items that we accomplished in the last 3. So with that, I will open it up to questions. There's a mic in the back. There's a free mic floating around here. Raise your hand, and we'll be glad to answer them.
Rob, thank you for describing that. I was one of the first to sign up as part of the apartments. You mentioned that the standards are not binding, but is there going to be a certification process for vendors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what the committee will define. What is that certification process, right? Because you can't manage what you don't measure. And to say that we have a certification, well, what does that mean? And so we will come up with a process to quantify what certification is if somebody wants that certification. And if vendor chooses to be certified, it's no cost, right? I mean, the goal is so we all win, win, win. The goal is not to make money. Next question. We got 120 people in this room. One question, that's awesome.
Hey, I work for ALN. We were one of the first ones to sign up as well. And I'm kind of curious on how you're going to choose the committee members. How can we get more active in this and really dive into the deep end?
So along with my chair, Frank from Camden, we've identified individuals that we think would like to participate. If you want to participate in a chair or membership, okay, please come see me. I brought a stack of business cards, okay, and I'll hand them out like chiclets, okay? Feel free to sign up, and when you sign up, okay, state that you're interested in participation, either in a subcommittee or in the senior council, and we'll be glad to take that in. Our goal is, and let me say this, the senior council, and even mine, this is not in perpetuity, right? I am here for 1 year to get this started, and then I have to be voted back in. And there are term limits, and they're intentionally term limits, because we want new, fresh blood. This is not about Rob Napolitano. This is about us moving forward. And so if you have interest, I highly, highly recommend you send me an email or through RETA.ll.org. Next question.
I'm asking for a friend. Is a membership dues for a company or for individuals?
Company. Right? One company, one vote. Right? So it's not individually based. Okay, in the back.
Are the major software providing companies active in this? Like you did this, like Yardies, MRIs,
So yeah, scroll back. Can we scroll back 2 slides? 3. So MRI, who has representation in the room, Brian Sremsek, begrudgingly, but with convincing, right. Definitely agreed. RealPage, Entrada, these are the companies that definitely have expressed that, yeah, they're in the room. By the way, the point being is that we can't do this unless they are in the room. And I think everybody here would agree to that, including them. And the question is, they don't want to be the only one that's not in the room while we're all having that conversation. So yes, they have committed. Another question. This is the fastest presentation. Wow, it's a New York minute. No other questions? Yep.
So I just thought I'd say something real quickly. My name's Armand Rabinowitz. I'm actually with HT&G, which you'll see on the one sheet and up in the presentation. Patrick, on the one sheet and up in the presentation. Patrick Dunphy, if you'd stand up, please. Patrick is also with me with HT&G. We've worked together with Rick and Rob and others that have joined to put this together. And the reason why we've been brought in actually to facilitate the work groups is we've been doing this for 17 years. And as complex as your industry is, hospitality is no different, and some may argue actually just as, if not more complex, because we have a lot of stakeholders. We bring together every day, multiple times a day, many vendors, hospitality executives, technologists, sometimes owners of properties, management companies, brands, and there's an incredible amount of collaboration, coordination, in really helping to move the hospitality industry forward. And we've received a lot of great feedback in our industry and beyond, and what the kind of the culture that our organization has been able to create. And we really hope to bring that to you all. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that you all put in your mind right now is, as you appropriately started this presentation with Rob, is that it is not a place where you can just sit quietly and learn what somebody else is doing, so somebody else at their game. This is a way that we can set minimum standards and bring some consistency within the industry so that every property, every solution provider can provide their level of expert service or take that minimum standard to the next level to innovate on top of, as you've seen, many years in this industry, I'm sure, and we saw in the hospitality and hotel space for many years prior to our existence. There's just too many directions everybody's going. It's hard to bring some consistency. It's hard to make decisions to move forward quickly when there's a lack of consistency, collaboration, coordination. So we'll be questions about how we plan to do that and working with Rob and Rick and the vision of the committee that's being formed. But we're really looking forward to working with you all. Some of you may remember me from last year in Las Vegas. But I just wanted to make sure to give you guys a little bit of what we're planning to do with you and look forward to it. Patrick, anything you want to add of what we're planning to do with you and look forward to it? Patrick, anything you want to add? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Heather Wallace. I work at Saris Regis, and we cover Denver West. And I just wanted to, it's really not a question. I'm so grateful that you're coordinating this effort. We need it so desperately. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here.
So you talk about this being a commercial solution as well, not just multifamily. How is that? Are you going to show up at lots of other conferences then for the office guys and the industrial conferences then for the office guys and the industrial guys and the et cetera, et cetera?
Rephrase it. I'm sorry. I had a hard time hearing.
So you said this is a commercial. You're also going to extend it to commercial, other kinds of property types, correct?
Absolutely.
Outside of multifamily. So you go and do your shtick then at the at their conferences as well, the office guys, the industrial guys, and how do you bring that together? And I guess as a follow-on, the lodging industry has taken some steps, and they have some data definitions, and they're way ahead. Do we start to suppose that we start to build on those specifically? Because if not, then you're not really bringing.
So several things. One, we've already thought about, I don't know about you, but I talk to people in commercial in our space. New York is very heavily commercial versus multifamily, so very versed there. In addition, can we talk to our vendors, right? Who also deal in vertical markets. Our vendors, right? Who also deal in vertical markets. And who do they recommend? If we're not getting somebody to raise their hand and say, I want participation. And yes, at Realcomm or NAA or IREM or any of the other trade associations, okay, we're going to go and pitch this. And we're going to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible. I think there was a question over here.
Larry Belek, Mobile Doorman. Rob, I'm delighted that you're doing this. I think part of the concern for a lot of us here who have been in the industry for a long time is we saw a big push to do this years ago and it failed. In your estimation, what would you say were the hurdles or the problems, the hurdles or the problems that we ran into that didn't allow us to do this, and what are we going to do different this time?
Well, great question. Several things. One of the things that I think that why the adoption didn't happen is because it was very strict and it was only to multifamily, right? Strict and it was only to multifamily, right? So only was a multifamily subset. Our vendors don't, you know, they're branching out. So I think the fact that we're all inclusive gives us a better chance of adoption. I think the fact that we are fluid and we're not just about standards and we're not going to require it, that gives it a better chance. The fact that there's 130 people in this room today, okay, based on a letter that went out, I think that's a really good chance of adoption, right? We're just starting this. And the more we communicate it and the more we get people involved, and I think that is going to be the key to the success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So a really approach, because at Imbue as a small company, just our investment in going to standards bodies like this is significant as a percentage of the company. So I think that's great. You know, be interested to see how that plays out over time. Have you thought about you know, certification and compliance issues that typically require certification and compliance that typically requires, you know, a testing organization. They've been around for years in the networking industry, but building that kind of organization or identifying that kind of organization is going to be really important.
Absolutely, and that's part of this whole exercise, right? Why come?
Really important.
Absolutely, and that's part of this whole exercise, right? Why come up with the standard if we're not willing to then, you know, go in, quantify it, right? And then how do you keep it up? Just because you're standard, just because you're ISO 9000 compliant, how do you then maintain that compliance? And that's part of the senior committee. The senior council to come up with other partners like HT&G or Oscar or anybody else that's out there to say, what did you do in your industry? What did you do in your space? How do you quantify that? How do you make sure that compliance is adhered to? And how can we adopt those practices internally so we're not reinventing the wheel? Did that answer your question? The wheel. Did that answer your question? Sir.
Paul Bergeron from Units Magazine at NAA, kind of piggybacking on Larry's question. So if you guys did this with hospitality for 10, 12 years or whatever you said, when you started up with them, what were the big challenges? When you started up with them, what were the big challenges, and do you anticipate those specific challenges translating here, and how did you solve those challenges?
So I know we're recording this session, as we might record some meetings, but maybe not. You know, with regards to the certification, you know, we look forward to partnering, and we have partnered with organizations in the past to execute certification. Our industry, we have vacillated on the certification strategy a little bit. It really is dependent on what the committee elects to do, and if it's going to be valuable to the solution provider, going to be something that the managers, property managers, owners, property managers want to adopt only certified solutions. There is no point in certifying solutions if the property managers and owners do not require that their vendors get certified. So that's something you all need to think about and plan for to get certified. As Rob mentioned, there should be no cost to it or minimal, just to serve the testing and other resource requirements. But there may be changes needed to solutions to adopt certain standards. Are those extremely resource intensive? Well, hopefully not. And by being a part of the organization, or existing standards that you're, you know, any APIs or anything that you're leveraging within your own organization, or you're as a solution provider, or any definitions you have as a property owner, manager, by contributing that and and letting everyone vote on what is the best choice, we can get consistency. Did I answer the question, or? So I'll repeat the question for the sake of the recording. The challenges that we saw in hospitality that we were able to solve, specifically, stem back 17 years. So a lot has changed in that time. But it initially started simply with integration between software systems. You have, for example, here in this hotel, you're down on the market and you're buying things in the market and you want that to post to your room. We developed the standards for posting things in the market and you want that to post to your room. We developed the standards for posting those charges to the room folio. We developed standards for guest room technology, how to define that. We've addressed IoT and driven some consistency in definition of IoT, systems that are connecting to various backhauls. We also produce a lot of best practice information. One of the things that we're doing currently is addressing the requirements for panic buttons for various regions in the US currently. You have to give housekeepers, engineers, anyone who is by themselves working in a hotel, a button where they can call for help. There's a lot of confusion, ambiguity on what's required, how to make sure you're buying a solution that is going to meet the standards, that's going to operate within. We're helping solution providers come up with some consistent ways to address those challenges, and bringing some consistency within the hotels as far as requesting something similar. So not every single solution provider is doing something different, and every hotel is requiring something different. That will add time, complexity, and cost to something different. That will add time, complexity, and cost to ultimately providing a more safe environment for people working in hotels. So that is just one example of the things that we're doing currently. We have also in the last year built an API registry for the hospitality industry, a model for RETA in the future as well, where any solution provider, any company can go and register for free. You don't even have to be a member of HT&G. You can list your company. You can list all of the products that your company produces, all of the APIs that your products are compatible with, open APIs or closed, and who to contact, what's the architecture of the API, and then the real sweet spot is what has your API been leveraged to integrate with. So other systems, companies, products, and APIs that are listed in the API registry can identify what they have integrated with, and now you have a map of all the hospitality systems and how they integrate. So if you own this system, you're running your business on this system, you can see dozens of other systems that are immediately compatible or have tested and true integrations with your property management system, for example. That is one way that we think we're adding more value than just certification alone, is actual tangible data on how many integrations are out there on a certain API. This was all born to try and drive more open APIs. By allowing closed and open APIs to exist in this API registry, quality of integrations potentially of the open APIs in comparison to the closed. And allow businesses, owners and operators to better assess whether this solution that's on a closed API or an open API is better suited for them based on how many integrations they have. Because we believe is better suited for them based on how many integrations they have. Because we believe, or our industry believes that more open approach to APIs and systems will help further innovation and progress. And we needed some data to show the rest of the industry and those maybe non-believers who are still on the fence that there actually is evidence of open APIs.
Thank you. In the back.
Hi, Sean Massey with Madera Residential. I think this is a great idea. My mind immediately goes to the years and decades of technology debt that some of these companies have amassed. I'm curious, what thought or what path can we go down on a discussion to help get past the cost and that tangible technology debt that does exist to get to a standard?
So let me first say this. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And I'll give you a prime example. This morning, I National Innovation Committee to see how we can partner. And you know what? We figured out a way. We figured out a way where they would come up as part of their role and their mission statement, okay? They would come up with their 3 to 5 month to 6 month trajectory. And once they came up with those ideas, they would pass it to us, those ways to execute it. By partnership, we are limiting that time frame. But it's not going to happen in a year. It's going to take 3 to 5 years till we're fully vested, till this is rolling. This is just the first step, right? This is taking an idea into something tangible. And it's not about the idea, it's the execution into something tangible. And it's not about the idea, it's the execution of the idea that's going to bring it to success. Over here? Who has the mic? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, this is more of a comment than a question to Armand's. The hospitality standards, open APIs, the hospitality standards, open APIs that were set up, did you face any challenges related to privacy information? So open APIs, and I have experience in kind of building platforms as part of some large organizations like Oracle and SAP. And one of the challenges, governance and sponsorship as part of the certification process. So for example, open APIs are a great concept, but you take them to an extreme where resident data can now be exposed and used for marketing purposes without the GDPR compliance and some of the Sarbanes-Oxley. That's where I think some of the Sarbanes-Oxley, that's where I think some of the devil in the details start coming into play. So I think it'll be important for this committee as we kind of socialize the concept of open APIs and graph APIs. We kind of have concepts of privacy, security, and GDPR compliance as part of that.
So very, very solid points, and I'll address those. When I mention, who here knows what an API is? Okay, good. All right. Who here, I wanted to do this earlier, who is actually interested in joining if you haven't already, has joined or is interested in joining? Okay, so the rest of you, sorry, we didn't know how many people were going to be here, so some of you who came or standing in the back wouldn't have any lunch. Open APIs, there are certainly ways to architect them so that you don't expose risk for privacy. I mean, we're very sensitive to PII in our industry, PCI, PII, you know, certainly, as I'm sure many of you are. We have significant practice in security, and Patrick, you may want to mention something about our ISAC that we have as well, and there may be a similar model for your industry. But just because you have an open API doesn't necessarily mean that the data is open. Certainly, just because you have an open API doesn't necessarily mean that the data is open. Certainly, it's easier to access and it's easier to integrate with, but there's still a lot of security controls around providing access to that data. The data can still be siloed. You know, it can have multiple layers of authentication in order to gain access to it. It's really just data is stored so that it can be quickly accessed. So we certainly recognize that it'll take a committee of knowledgeable individuals such as yourself and others who have experience with this to help guide this group, and that's why voting is really important. To the earlier comment about, you know, how long this takes, and I have long this can take. We've been working on this for 17 years. We're still not done. I really would love to get done and move on to something else sometimes, but I do enjoy what we do and bringing people together, and I think you all will find some joy in it as well. I mean, maybe not like thrilling joy like a ride at Disneyland or something, Disney World, but there will be some satisfaction in getting things accomplished, and we're here to help make sure and move as quickly as possible with consideration of all and making sure that everyone has a voice. But if you're working on something now or revisiting a solution, whether you're a solution provider or an operator, manager, owner, and you're working on something, join the group, bring that to the committee's attention, donate your APIs, donate your standards, say, I want to put this up and make the de facto standard. I want to, you know, give this IP away. It's meaningless to us to hold it, you know, secretly. We want the industry to adopt this. And that is how some of our working groups and our standards have emerged, and been successful, is because, you know, a leader in the industry says, we want everyone to be able to adopt this. Let's let's bring this forward to a group. Let's start a work group around business analytics and establish a way that people can transact and extract that data for more accurate analytics. We were talking about how it is in this industry today and driving those consistent standards. So many of you probably already have some standards. Let's work together to figure out a better way to that so that can be adopted and innovated upon.
Thank you. In the back.
Following up on what I was saying about specifics in relation to comparing to the hospitality arena, I mean, I know that Mark and people have been talking about that, but I can't help but think that the smart home automation phenomenon is huge, and I got to figure it's in or already in the hotel industry, and I know the apartment industry is really looking at this. So can you talk at all about the hospitality groups? Have they tackled that, and how did they go about that, and is that an ongoing process?
Ongoing. So the reality is, this buzzword of IoT has been around for a long time. Before the buzzword of IoT, some of you who have advanced properties have probably tried to connect systems. And you have energy management, building management systems that are running on a proprietary network. We formed an IoT work group last year with a primary setting the record straight as to what IoT means for hospitality, and it's not too different from what it means to your industry. It really is centered around creating a more open platform for data exchange. The challenge is that a lot of the solution providers still today who are just rebranding what they've been doing for many years as an IoT solution are still somewhat siloed in their own platform. It really plays best with this other product that we make. The only way we're going to drive change is by coming together and encouraging a more open adoption and establishing the standards so that IoT solutions can exchange data better. We're still working on that in the hospitality space. You all will be working on that for some time, but if you don't work at it at all, if you don't come and join this group and be active and participate and drive solution provider, you'll be extremely siloed, and IoT is just a myth that'll never come to fruition.
Hey, I'm Dustin from Rentley, and the thing I'm wondering about is data standardization makes a lot of sense because that's a huge problem between companies being able to talk to each other and vendors being able to serve multiple clients around developing new concepts and standards around emergent technologies. I kind of questioned if that would happen because, as a technology vendor who works with other technology vendors and other property owners, standardization is helpful in terms of making sure we can all work together. But when it comes to specific technologies and how they're applied and how they're used, that's the magic sauce that people use to make their money. So, how are you going to incentivize people sharing, clever new technology applications that is literally how they pay their employees' salaries?
Two things.
How they pay their employees' salaries.
Two things. Okay. One, as Gretzky say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if we don't have the conversation because we're scared of the conversation, it's never going to happen. So we may not be able to on certain technologies, but at least we should have assesses it, questions it, and sees if we can apply it, okay? There are people in this room that didn't think this meeting was going to happen today. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said to me, and you can ask most of the vendors in this space, it's never been done this way before, or it's never going to happen, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be on an island in Tahiti, the secret sauce. But at least we have to try. And the point of that was that we are thinking outside the box. We are thinking of innovative ways, okay, to not just do one focus. We are thinking of partnering with other agencies that have done this before so we don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Now, we may drop it, but at least we will have the conversation in the room to say what is another use case and how can we apply it. That's all about being dynamic and fluid. Does that answer your question? Great. Sir.
Yeah, hey, Justin Alanese, CEO, founder of Rentlytics. So we've been integrated. We have about 1.2 million units now, and one of the biggest challenges is that Yardi controls about 70% of the market. So where are you guys right now with your conversations with Yardi? Because if they don't get on board here, it's likely to be a failure.
So two things. One, when I had my conversations with two things. One, when I had my conversations with Yardi, they were very excited. Okay, and the individual that I spoke to, I've known for several years and was gung-ho, yes, we're all about collaboration. The only reason why every logo on this slide I was given permission to. Every logo on this slide I was given permission to. I do not want to take anybody's logo without their express permission, and so I didn't get that, but I did get an excited commitment from them, if that answers your question.
Good to hear.
So I believe they will come to the table.
Hey, Rob. Tom Kiernan, ClickPay.
Hey, Tom.
So we're excited to be part of the program here too. But so my question is, I found that recently it's not really a technology barrier; it's more of a business and sales barrier. That these open APIs and they exist and they're available. It's a matter of whether whoever's going to give them the biggest rev share to the other point solutions in the ecosystem, or is it truly open? I mean, I hear so many companies say that they're open for business, but they have the API, but they're actually not open for business because there's hard sales barriers that prevent it. Basically, my question is the committee going to be addressing that in any way?
Wow. I thought we were friends. Way to softball that for me. Look, someone once said to me in a previous life, you know, what kind of technology can you put in here? It's not about the technology, it's about the culture. And I think we have to change our culture. When it comes to conversations like this. And maybe it's not all open because you're not going to give away ClickPay's secret sauce, right? But you will be able to come to the table and say, we're willing to do X. And maybe that's 80% of it. Well, at least we're having that kind. You don't have to be, right? Only the companies that want to be RETA certified will be RETA certified. So if you're like, you know, deuces, Rob, I'm out, okay. But what business are you missing by not being RETA certified? What potential opportunities are you missing that's going to cost them more money so you can outbid your competition by saying, you know what, we're certified, we speak the same language, we have the same standards. I can implement this in less than 30 days' time, or whatever the entry to market is. How awesome would that be? I think that's a compelling reason. I think that's a compelling reason. Okay, yes, love it. We'll take you had the mic first, then we'll go to you, then we'll go to you.
Hi, Dimitri Themelis. I'm the founder of Knock. I think the fact that the room is as crowded as it is just a testament to what a pain lack of a good data standard is for. Is just a testament to what a pain lack of a good data standard is for both suppliers and owner managers. You hear a lot of questions addressing skepticism around whether it's cost or security, technical debt, participation from large companies. Reconciling those conflicts as a supplier, it seems like the one thing that could overcome that, other than this idea of greater adoption, would be making it a binding. So I'm just curious, when one of the first things you said on the first slide was that this would be non-binding standards.
Right.
With other associations, I mean, the owner managers are the ones paying the bills. So at the end of the day, the power should be in the hands of the owner managers. So if this is really what you want, and every one of us as a supplier says, well, it's cost, or it's this, or there's competition conflicts or security conflicts, why wouldn't you guys make the decision to make it a binding stick? That'd be the much faster way to get to the finish line.
Because I think that's where MIT's failed. Okay? Meaning, we tell you this is a binding standard. You have to now spend time, money, and resources to conform to said standard. Okay? And if that standard is not adopted, okay, you're going to be equally frustrated that adoption should not be binding. This is a free market society. You should have the choice whether you want to do that, because it's a competitive advantage against your customers. So if, I'll just say, because BZ's in the room and I called on him before, MRI is RETA compliant and you don't have an API, but you know there's a compliance, you know that that integration is possible and you could sell that point. That's your choice. That's not us to dictate how you should run your business. Because if we do that, after a while, you're not going to want to come to the table. You're going to find another way. You're going to have 491 APIs. I don't need this. We'd rather people want to adopt than force them to adopt.
Go ahead. All right. Hey, Rob.
Hey.
Ryan Croft, co-founder of Transit Screen. I like the concept. I'm curious, if you look in the crystal ball next year, this time, 12 months, what does success look like for you?
Success looks like a roadmap. Success looks like an action plan with milestones and deliverables. Success looks like having people in the room that are taking ownership and accountability for their vertical and engaging companies like yours in participation. Right? It's no longer a thought idea. No longer a thought idea. It's the execution. That's what it looks like a year from now. And by the way, it's an aggressive time frame. You know, Rick and I talked, I want to say, 3 months ago and said, are we going to be ready for OPTECH? And the point was, well, you know what? We're going to make it ready. So being here today, this communication, that all happened because we are very motivated to do this. In the back. Oh. You keep getting bounced, dude. Sorry.
Jeff Berman, Camber Creek. Are you open to participation from the venture community?
Absolutely.
Great.
That's the whole point, right? Absolutely.
Great.
That's the whole point, right? Is that if we bring in voices from other verticals, from other parts that have experience that we can apply and adopt so we all win, that's what this stands for. That's why we're here. It's not just about, you know, benefiting or expect you to share the secret sauce. But if we can partner together and we can each take away so we all benefit, great. And what does benefit mean? Profitability. Someone once had the audacity to say to me, you don't understand our space, Rob. You don't understand multifamily. Yeah, I do. It's called profitability, okay? Profitability, okay? Reduce costs, increase revenue. That is, at the end of the day, why we're all here, right? And if we can each take away to benefit that, absolutely. Finally.
Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to answer all the questions. I'm with Red IQ, and excuse me. Everything you've been saying about the open APIs has been really encouraging for us because what we do involves taking property data and providing insights and intelligence around it. Those open APIs would certainly be very valuable. I want to ask a question in a little bit of a different direction about the certification.
Mm-hmm.
Because PropTech is such sort of a broad umbrella, there's not really one specific PropTech industry. There's a bunch of different industries within that field. How would the certification work? Like, what is the value of? How would the certification work? Like, what is the value of being certified when that certification is not going to provide, specific standards for one very broad umbrella?
Dude, you want me to run a marathon? Dude, you want me to run a marathon, and I've barely done a 5K. So what does that look like? I don't know what it looks like. That's the honest truth, right? I don't know how it's going to apply. We don't know how it's going to apply. We can only try. I do see that the fact that PropTech isn't defined ourselves, what PropTech is, and we're letting the media define it, that's a detriment. Okay? When somebody else outside your space defines the terms that you then have to live by, they're writing a check and you have to cash it. So I envision that we will address this. So please feel free, sign up, and we can work towards it together.
Holly with RentPath. Thanks for putting this on, Rob. This is great. My question is kind of on the roadmap in 2019. Can you give us a taste of what you see to be successful communication once these committees and subcommittees are formed? With it being a national structure kind of thing, how frequent are we meeting? What have you seen to work, and just kind of give us a taste of what you think that looks like as chairman.
So 2019, I envision, let's take past 2019. Let's take 2020, why I envision. At least every quarter there's a meeting, either physical or a con call. And I'll tell you, personal belief, I don't believe in fluff. We're not here just to say we're here, right? What does it look like? It looks like actionable deliverables, right? And, you know, project management says time, scope, and cost, right? And time is the best. Deliverables don't get missed, or if you bridge that, right? So what I think there should be is action items, because with action items gives validity. With validity gives trust. With trust gives peer participation. If we don't have that, then you know what? We might as well be calling it MITS 2.0 again, right? And I don't believe in that. I think if we come together and we have to show, and we have to prove. I think if we come together and we have to show, and we have to prove as a governance committee, this is where we're going, this is what we've done, and this is how we're doing it, so people believe in the cause. Otherwise, you're not going to want to be a part of it.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Elaine Delude. I'm on the operating side, and I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this. I hope all the vending side, and I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this. I hope all the vendors in this room and service providers look at this group as a way to share information and make using your products easier, because there's some really cool products out there, and because the integration's not there, they don't want to work with so-and-so, it's a problem for us. So I hope everyone really takes...
Cooper from Imbue again. I just had one question. How many suppliers are in the room?
Okay.
And how many owners, managers are in the room? Very cool.
Okay. Now, for the sake of time, by the way, great discussion. We're about 45 minutes in on discussion, exactly what we hope to achieve. Does anybody have one last question before I conclude? Larry, didn't you use your allotment?
So Rob, as you know, and you and I have had this conversation, from the owner side, we agree with you. Suppliers, we all agree. We know they're controlled, for the most part, by some large software companies. We know that we've got some acceptance by some of them. So my first question to ask you that everybody's thinking is, have you sat down with the CEOs of these 5 property management software and gotten their buy-in, allow these companies to do it? Because as you mentioned and other questions have mentioned, it is a direct, profitable revenue stream for them to come to all the suppliers in the room and say, we're open for 25 grand. We're open for 50 grand. We're open for 10 grand. We solve that. Your life is wonderful.
By the way, you're talking about 2 different things. One, you're talking about direct API. And I should let everybody in the room know that when I called, one of the people I called first was Larry. Because from a previous life, we worked together, and I knew that I would get an honest response. And he said to me, Rob, I love the concept. One of the people I called first was Larry. Because from a previous life, we worked together, and I knew that I would get an honest response. And he said to me, Rob, I love the concept. I love the idea, okay? I love the collaboration, the one vote. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm lying, I'm flying, and I haven't left yet, okay? They said, Larry, let me worry about that. That is my job. That is why I am here. They are at the table, okay? Now, when you talk about a custom API or an API direct with mobile doorman, you know what? That's the relationship between you two. That's not what this is about. This is about creating a set of standards of costs. This is about creating an alliance where we have a collaboration and a forum where you get to participate in what those standards are, so it makes it easier to adopt. This is about giving companies like yours, who's early on in its stages, a forum to communicate, learn from others. This is not about, creating a direct API with one of the 5. This is about working together. Did I answer your question? Great. Okay.
So Larry, to address your question, and I think, we've definitely experienced that in hospitality. There has been, there are incumbents that are the core solution provider. They actually had something like 90% of the branded market, and they had processes that were costly to get integrated. But things change, right? Those created. So there is definitely hope, but want to make sure that we don't speak disparagingly about anyone, either part of the RETA or not a part of it. And we also want to talk about price. So just some ground rules that you guys want to make sure we follow as we move forward. But thank you all for being here, and thank you, Rob, for...
So let me end with a special thank you to Mr. Rick Hoey, This would not be possible without him today. So please join me in a round of applause. To Mr. Rick Hoey. This would not be possible without him today. So please join me in a round of applause. Thank you. To the NMHC and HTNG guys, thank you very much. Appreciate your sponsorship. Now, as I said earlier, I don't stand on ceremony. Please feel free to reach out to me during the duration of the conference. Come up here, email me, email my vice chairman. We'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.